Today we're going to be talking specifically about how to fix a forward head posture and the myths behind a forward head posture and what really does cause a forward head posture. So I love to do research, as you guys, for those of you that don't know, I love to inquire and see what's out there on YouTube, on Google, what's the latest trend. And pretty much every single video that talks about forward head posture or neck pain or migraines relates back to the muscles. So to put things in perspective for you, see our friend Bucky here? This is what you look like without your muscles and your joints. So if I let go of Bucky and I remove these screws that are holding him in place, what ends up happening is that he would actually fall. So what's going to hold his body in place is going to be his muscles, his bones in place. I hope that we all agree on that concept. If you do agree, give me a thumbs up. If you don't agree, give me a thumbs down. So muscles, the job of the muscles is to keep the bones in place and attach bones to one another with the ligaments. So the same concept applies to your jaw. But today I want to talk about how this complex here can actually affect your head posture. Why? The common mistake in the rehab and fitness and even in the medical sphere is that we have separated the body into different professions. This really is important to understand because there's a profession that looks at the way that your eyes move. There's a profession that looks at your jaw. There's a profession, many professions, that looks at your musculoskeletal system. And there's another profession that looks specifically at how your foot functions. So that's awesome. And they are all specialists in those specific areas. The problem is that when you're looking at someone's posture, you're looking at a body that receives multiple sensory input from different organs and different sensory entries, which are your eyes, your feet, and the jaw has the potential, if it's not well balanced, it has the potential to create a dysregulation with your neck and certainly with the muscles of your upper body. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because some of the greatest misconceptions are that texting on the phone or even carrying a heavy bag causes forward head posture. It really doesn't. Unless you're literally texting 24 hours a day for a period of 365 days and your head is constantly looking down, I might tend to believe that that's possible, but I don't think that many of us are actually doing this. So let's talk about the jaw. Let's break it down. The strongest muscle in your mouth is your tongue. And your tongue is attached to a bone. Do any of you know what that bone is? It's a really small bone that's located right here, right in front of your esophagus. And it's called the hyoid bone, right over here. I don't know if you guys can see that. And the hyoid bone is actually the bone that connects your anterior muscles with your back muscles. So here's the thing. When we're born, we don't actually have teeth, right? So our jaw is not well fully developed. What's going to develop the jaw? Well, the way that we learn how to swallow, because we're going to swallow first before chewing. And that's going to create kind of like an engram in our brain. Start developing different muscles, facial muscles, neck muscles, throat muscles. When you actually look at a baby that breastfeeds, they stop breastfeeding out of exhaustion, not because they're not hungry anymore, because of all of the physical requirements and all of the energy that it takes to actually suck the milk and swallow the milk through suction movements, which involves the muscles of your jaw and the muscles of your face. So the jaw in itself, we don't have teeth when we're born. The way that we learn how to swallow and then the way that we learn how to chew is going to determine the position of our temporomandibular joint. And that's really awesome, because you see this position here. I mean, there's so many professions that are looking at this joint. This is your temporomandibular joint. Now, the actual physiological position of that joint is determined by the height of your teeth. And this is referred to as posterior vertical dimension. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed, and please leave me your comments or let me know if you have or not, most people are getting their wisdom teeth pulled out. I mean, the real reason why wisdom teeth are being removed is simply because, I mean, the common excuse that's being given is that they're really hard to clean. For me, really, that's not a valid reason. If there are toothbrushes that are made to clean the teeth in the back, and it really is possible to clean the wisdom teeth properly if you have the proper equipment. So please clean your wisdom teeth and don't have them pull out. Another common argument is that there's no space. Great, there's no space. The jaw cannot accommodate the teeth. Again, why? Because the development of the mandible and the cranium has not happened successfully. There is a lack of development because there is poor tongue posture. And not to say that this is wrong. I'm going to have a reserved opinion about that because I want to be respectful of everyone. But if I'm removing the teeth in the back that are there to anchor my mandible on my cranium, can I potentially change the mechanics of this joint? And the answer is you can. You can actually change the mechanics of this joint when you decrease the height of the posterior vertical dimension. So why is that important? Because if you're decreasing that height and you're changing this position, then the mandible is going to move in a certain way, certainly not in the physiological way that it has been meant to move as a human. And that's going to create an impact on your head posture, which will then what? It's going to affect your neck muscles. And ultimately, it's going to affect your upper body. And since we stand upright and we walk on our feet and we stabilize our body through our center of gravity, that imbalance is going to go all the way down to your feet. Where am I going with this? There's one thing that you can figure out, or one really easy test that you can do to figure out if you already have a lack of posterior vertical dimension, and I call this the 3-finger test. If you actually take 3 of your fingers like this, and you open your mouth and you put your fingers in, and I'll show you from the side so that it can make sense, just like this. If that's painful for you, then what that means is that the meniscus that's located right here is already being compromised. So in other words, your joint, this condyle, is so jammed up already in the fossa that you're unable to do the proper movement of translation forward so that you can actually open your mouth. If this is true, then the muscles of your neck and your head posture is already affected. All the time. This is happening when you're standing upright. There's no, I mean, this information, this engram is there as we speak. So what can you do for this? One of the things that you could certainly start doing is try to become aware of whether or not you are clenching your teeth. Now, this is important because if you already have this tooth that's removed and you're clenching your teeth on a daily basis because you're stressed, you're going to further aggravate the position of the joint, and you're going to aggravate the scenario of having a forward head posture. So you absolutely have to stop clenching your teeth. So becoming aware of this, and I'm looking on my table here. This is what I use systematically with everyone. Let me show you. So I buy these dots, right? These red dots. And anybody that clenches their teeth will say to you, yeah, I clench my teeth when I sleep, but I never do it in the day. They're not aware of it. We're not aware of it. But we're going to become aware of it with red dots. So the idea behind this is at the level of your eyes, you're going to take the red dot, you're going to put it on the wall, and you're going to ask yourself or your clients every single time that you see the dot, I'm talking to you now, I see the dot, and I'm going to ask myself, Are my teeth touching? Is there slight contact? Just contact. If they are, that is considered clenching. And clenching is a really, really bad thing. If you're doing this on a daily basis, you're actually decompensating you're over soliciting constantly your trigeminal nerve, and you really don't want to do that 24/7. So you have to find ways to relax. And obviously there are many techniques out there. We're not going to cover them in today's talk, but you have to find a way to decrease or activate your parasympathetic system. There are many, many benefits to this, as many of you know. So going back to the jaw, the teeth are removed. You have a lack of posterior vertical dimension. You have a forward head posture that's already starting to happen. You're thinking it's your upper trap. You're stretching your trap with a ball or doing all of these stretching exercises. The cause in this example is your teeth. All right. How will you know if that really is impacting your jaw? You're going to do the 3-finger test, put it in your mouth. This hurts. You hear clenching. You're unable to do it. You know that you have a lack of posterior vertical dimension. So then what's going to be optimal in this scenario is for you to stop clenching your teeth, because there's nothing else that you can do as far as the posterior vertical dimension. So that's that. Then we're going to be talking about the tongue. So if you have what we call a lingual dysfunction, if you didn't actually learn how to use your tongue properly, I know that this sounds extremely weird, but there is a way to test this. If you simply ask someone, you grab a piece of paper and lower someone's lip with their teeth closed, if you ask them to swallow. So in other words, I'll show you what the dysfunctional movement is. I'm going to lower my lips and I'm going to ask, and I'm going to swallow. If you see this, that is a positive test. If you see any movements of the tongue pushing forward when you ask someone to swallow as you pull their lip down, they have a lingual dysfunction. What does that mean? It means that the way that they've learned to swallow their food and their saliva does not happen the way that it should in an adult, which is the tongue on top of the palate that pushes the food back. Instead, the tongue goes forward. Now, what happens if every single time you swallow and speak words, your tongue pushes on your teeth? Will it create a problem with the development, or at least with the shape of your teeth? It will, because it takes this very, very small pressure on the teeth for the teeth to actually start moving forward. And we know this condition as in dentistry as a class 2 division, either 1 or 2, there's different divisions, but a class 2 could also be determined by looking at someone's teeth from the front. So in other words, the upper teeth will cover the lower teeth by more than 1/3. So if you see the upper teeth completely covering the lower teeth and all you're seeing here are the gums, then this is considered a class 2. And that's 85% of people that are already in a class 2 occlusion. Why is this important? Because we're talking about forward head posture. If you have a class 2, a class angle that is a class 2, where's your head going? It's going forward. Why? Why is it going forward? Because your mandible is pushed up and back. I'm just showing you an example of this. And if this reality is true, then my esophagus, my head is going to move forward so that I can take in air. So in this scenario, the tongue is at the culprit of the problem that we're seeing. And since we take many, many breaths in one day, what ends up happening is we start developing this habit. So what you're seeing on a daily basis with your clients, or maybe with yourselves or with your children, and if they have a forward displacement of their center of gravity, and this can actually be measured. We have special platforms here that can measure to the square millimeter whether or not your posture is forward. Now keep in mind that the minute that you have a forward displacement of your center of gravity, you are wasting energy standing upright. You may be meditating, you may be eating right, you may be exercising, and doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. But if you are in a constant state of mitochondrial fatigue, it might be really, really hard to achieve the goal that you're trying to reach. So I hope that this was informative. If you guys have any comments, please leave them in the comment below. And if you have any suggestions of other videos that you'd like for me to do, please let me know. And if you have more questions about your jaw, of things that you can do to actually address this, then please let us know as well.